Hello, my name is Matthew Croucher and I'm a specialist in older person's mental health. We've been talking about how alcohol might affect us from head to toe. Brains, hearts, livers, even pancreas and parts of our body that you might not have known anything about. But what's the end result? Today we're going to think about where this all might lead and how alcohol actually affects us, not so much our bodies, but ourselves and how we operate in the world. When people tell me some of the things that are most important to them in their lives, when people talk with me about some of the things that illness, be it mental illness or physical illness, has taken away from them in old age, the common theme that comes up is the effect of all this on relationships, on family, on husbands, wives, partners, children, on the people that mean the most to them. And alcohol can, again, over the years, whittle away at what's happening in our social lives. Once again, we've got a double-edged sword thing that can go on here. In terms of participating in social events and managing some relationships, 1 or 2 drinks may be helpful. Some of us feel as though, if we have a drink or 2, we can relax. If we're having people round to dinner and we have a drink or 2, we can relax and enjoy the evening. If we're going out to someone else's place, if we have a drink or 2, we can relax. In that way, we can start to think of alcohol as something that allows us to participate socially. But if you think about all those health problems that we've been going through, problems with dementia and how our brain works, problems with our body and how healthy and strong we can feel and how well we can manage walking even. And when we think certainly about depression and anxiety, we can begin to see that alcohol may well decrease our ability to participate in the social world. No one needs a drink to be able to manage, say, looking after the grandchildren. But alcohol taken on a regular basis may well undermine our ability to look after the grandchildren safely if it's begun to undermine our health and our well-being and our brain function. So it's that double-edged sword thing again, isn't it? Alcohol on the one hand we might think of as something that's a social lubricant. This is a term that people use, isn't it? But actually over the medium to long term, alcohol may erode our health and our ability to take part in all these things. Now when we have more problematic drinking and we are continuing to drink even though people are giving us feedback and saying, look mum, look dad, look brother, look sister, this is not good for you, then we have a whole extra dimension of how alcohol can poison not just ourselves but our social lives. Is shame something that's important for you? Is guilt something that's important for you? What about resentment? What about how alcohol can give rise to others resenting the hold it has over us and us at the same time resenting their concern for us and misinterpreting it and experiencing it as criticism when people are just trying to tell us that this is not working for you? Here's another way that alcohol can gradually and over the years be poisoning our social lives with those big bad feelings, the resentments, the guilt and the shame. These are not healthy things. This is not what we want for ourselves as we get older. But I meet people in my job where occasionally alcohol has taken them even beyond that. And I'm still not talking about Skid Row, folks. I'm talking about how when alcohol has led to brain failure enough that dementia is beginning to be a problem, or it's led to such significant liver or gut or muscle problems that people are now needing to enter residential care, then I'm meeting people who have lost control of their money, who have lost control of where they live and who they live with. These are surely some of the biggest things for us with our very independent individualistic way of life here. Whatever we may think of that, that's what most of us want. We want to stand on our own 2 feet and live in our own way on our own terms. Alcohol is not our friend when it comes to these things. And when we're drinking regularly and in the kinds of amounts that are harming our bodies and harming our brains, we can eventually set ourselves up to lose the things that are most important to us. Where we live, how we organise our finances, how we choose what we want to do in a day. This is all sounding very sort of end of the road, unusual, but you have to know that in my practice as a psychiatrist of old age, these are not uncommon stories. These are common stories. You also need to know that the kinds of amounts of alcohol that I'm talking about here are not people that are drinking 2 bottles of wine every night. These are people whose use of alcohol was perhaps 20 years ago sounded fine, seemed fine, caused me no problems, but it is only now in my 70s and 80s and perhaps beyond that I'm starting to run into some of these negative consequences that I'm telling you about. In that sense, I think you can see that it's not only true what they say about there's no such thing as a free lunch, there's actually no such thing as a free drink if we're going to do this with alcohol again and again and again as a habit and as a pattern. Now the good news is, it is never too late to decrease the amount of alcohol that we're taking in. To prevent our risk of falls, sure, but to prevent our risk of all of these social costs. And that is why I wanted to bring as the final part in our series the social aspects and some of the common social costs that I see in relation to alcohol in my everyday practice as a doctor, and bring them to you for your consideration to add to everything that you've learned about effects on the brain and the heart and the liver and the gut and the muscles and the nerves, the pancreas, all these different parts of the body. But it's the social functioning that I think matters the most to people. So that's what I'm leaving you with. But overall, I think the most important message from all the series that we've talked through is just how important it is to arm yourselves with the facts. You already know what feel like the benefits of alcohol in your life, but you may not have been aware of the costs and potential costs that you face. And whenever we're thinking about what we want to do about something that's in our lives, whether it's alcohol or cigarettes or smoking or driving in a certain way or whatever it is, it's all about weighing up the pros and the cons, making our own decision, but a decision that's based on the facts rather than half the facts. So I hope it's been interesting for you to hear, from my opinion and from my experience, what a doctor might add and what I might know from my experience to add to your knowledge, just to help you weigh things up all the better. Wish you all the very best in your thinking through what it is that you want to do next. Thanks very much for listening.